How's it going, baseball fans? It has been a long offseason, but the new MLB season is just about here. Now, I know what many of you may be thinking. I've seen where a few of the big names have signed, but I don't know how my team looks now, or really how the league looks as a whole. Well, hold on, you're in luck. I spent the entire offseason tracking every signing and transaction and will provide a clear and concise full breakdown of every team to get you ready for the season quickly. I will have 6 videos, one division per video, where I go over each of the 5 teams and their off seasons in alphabetical order. Specifically, I will be covering all players departing from the major league team, all free agency signings, all trades, all extensions and re-signings, all arbitration deals, if the team drafted a Rule 5 player or not, as well as briefly covering all waiver pickups and minor league players signed. If you have any questions about any part of the video or what certain transactions may mean to a team, comment below and I'll be sure to help out. Also, I hope I pronounced everyone's names correctly. Feel free to let me know if I get a name or two wrong. Anyways, this video will cover the offseason of all teams in the AL Central, starting with the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox have 8 players from their MLB roster not returning this year. The most impactful of those being utility man Josh Harrison, starting pitchers Johnny Cueto and Vince Velasquez, outfielder Adam Engel, and the most valuable of these players being first baseman Jose Abreu. The White Sox signed just 2 free agents, setting the tone for the AL Central, which as a division signed only 12 total free agents, 5 fewer than the next lowest division. Those 2 free agents ended up being left fielder Andrew Benintendi, who signed a 5-year, $75 million deal, as well as starting pitcher Mike Clevenger to a 1-year, $12 million deal that includes a 2024 mutual option of $12 million with a $4 million buyout option. As for trades, the Sox made 2 this offseason. On December 22nd, they traded away relief pitcher Cade McClure to the San Francisco Giants in return for relief pitcher Gregory Santos. And on February 3rd, they traded away relief pitcher Franklin Herman to the Red Sox in exchange for relief pitcher Theo Denlinger. Chicago did not agree to any extensions this offseason, but did exercise a club option of $12.5 million on shortstop Tim Anderson, which includes a $14 million club option for the following season, and also re-signed infielder Elvis Andrus to a 1-year, $3 million deal. The White Sox had 5 players eligible for arbitration and were able to agree to deals with all 5 players while avoiding the need of an arbiter. They agreed to deals with starting pitchers Lucas Giolito, Dylan Cease, and Michael Kopech, as well as relief pitchers Reynaldo Lopez and Jose Ruiz. In the Rule 5 draft, they selected 25-year-old relief pitcher Nick Avila from the San Francisco Giants organization. And to wrap up, the Chicago White Sox claimed 1 player off of waivers inside a group of minor league free agents that you can see here. Next up, the Cleveland Guardians. The Guardians have 6 players from their MLB roster not returning this year, the most impactful of those being catchers Luke Maile and Austin Hedges, as well as utility man Owen Miller. The Guardians also signed 2 free agents. Those 2 free agents ended up being first baseman Josh Bell, who signed a 2-year, $33 million deal with a 2024 player option of $16.5 million with no buyout, and catcher Mike Zunino, who signed a 1-year, $6 million deal. As for trades, Cleveland made 5 this offseason. On November 9th, they traded away infielder Jose Furman to the St. Louis Cardinals in return for cash considerations. On November 15th, they made 2 trades, one trading away outfielder Nolan Jones to the Colorado Rockies in return for second baseman Juan Brito, and another trading away relief pitcher Carlos Vargas to the Arizona Diamondbacks in return for starting pitcher Ross Carver. They made another trade on December 14th, trading away utility man Owen Miller to the Milwaukee Brewers in return for more cash considerations. And lastly, they made a trade on February 8th, trading away hitter Will Benson to the Cincinnati Reds in return for outfielder Justin Boyd and a player to be named later. Cleveland did not agree to any extensions this offseason, exercise any club options, or re-sign any players. And to wrap up, the Cleveland Guardians claimed one player off waivers and signed a group of minor league free agents that you can see here. Batting third, it's the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers have a whopping 15 players from their MLB roster not returning this year. The most impactful of those being utility men Cody Clemens and Willie Castro, catcher Tucker Barnhart, infielder Harold Castro, third baseman Jeimer Candelario, and relief pitchers Andrew Chafin, Joe Jimenez, and Gregory Soto. The Tigers signed 2 free agents. Those 2 free agents ended up being starting pitcher Matthew Boyd, who signed a 1-year, $10 million deal with $1 million in performance incentives, and starting pitcher Michael Lorenzen, who signed a 1-year, $8.5 million deal with $1.5 million in performance incentives. As for trades, Detroit made 5 this offseason. On November 15th, they traded away the legend cash considerations to the San Francisco Giants in return for outfielder Steele Walker. On December 7th, they traded away relief pitcher Joe Jimenez to the Atlanta Braves in return for hitter Justin Henry Malloy and relief pitcher Jake Higginbotham. On December 31st, they again traded away cash considerations to the Baltimore Orioles in return for hitter Tyler Nevin. On January 3rd, they traded away hitter Bly Madris to the Houston Astros in return for cash considerations. And lastly, on January 7th, they traded away relief pitcher Gregory Soto and utility man Cody Clemens to the Philadelphia Phillies in return for utility man Nick Maton, hitter Matt Vierling, and catcher Donnie Sands. Detroit did not agree to any extensions this offseason, exercise any club options, or re-sign any players. The Tigers had 4 players eligible for arbitration and were able to agree to deals with all 4 players while avoiding the need of an arbiter. They agreed to deals with outfielder Austin Meadows, pitcher Tyler Alexander, as well as relief pitchers Jose Cisnero and Ronnie Garcia. In the Rule 5 draft, they selected 23-year-old starting pitcher Mason Englert from the Texas Rangers organization. And to wrap up, the Detroit Tigers claimed 9 players off waivers, which was the most claimed by any team. The Tigers also signed a group of minor league free agents that you can see here. Hitting cleanup are the Kansas City Royals. The Royals have 5 players from their MLB roster not returning this year. The most impactful of those being hitter Ryan O'Hearn, outfielder Michael A. Taylor, and infielder Adalberto Mondesi. The Royals signed 3 free agents. Those 3 free agents ended up being starting pitcher Jordan Lyles, who signed a 2-year, $17 million contract, which includes an unspecified amount of performance incentives. Relief pitcher Aroldis Chapman, who signed a 1-year, $3.75 million contract with up to $4 million in performance incentives. And starting pitcher Ryan Yarbrough, who signed a 1-year, $3 million contract, which also has up to $1 million in performance incentives. When it comes to trades, Kansas City made 5 this offseason. On December 16th, they traded away relief pitcher Wyatt Mills to the Boston Red Sox in return for relief pitcher Jacob Wallace. On January 3rd, they traded away hitter Ryan O'Hearn to the Baltimore Orioles in return for cash considerations. On January 23rd, they traded away outfielder Michael A. Taylor to the Minnesota Twins in return for relief pitchers Steven Cruz and Evan Sisk. On January 24th, they traded away infielder Adalberto Mondesi to the Boston Red Sox in return for relief pitcher Josh Taylor. And lastly, on February 8th, they traded away relief pitcher Anthony Misiewicz to the St. Louis Cardinals in return for cash considerations. Kansas City did not agree to any extensions or exercise any club options this offseason, but did re-sign 1 player. They re-signed Zach Greinke to a 1-year, $8.5 million deal with $7.5 million in performance incentives. The Royals had 9 players eligible for arbitration and were able to agree to deals with all but one player to almost avoid the need of an arbiter. They agreed to deals with shortstop Adalberto Mondesi and hitter Ryan O'Hearn, who were both traded shortly after, pitcher Brad Keller, infielder Nicky Lopez, starting pitcher Chris Bubic, and relief pitchers Amir Garrett, Taylor Clark, and Josh Stallmont. The one player they were not able to make a deal with was starting pitcher Brady Singer. At the arbitration hearing, the arbiter sided with the Royals, resulting in Singer making the team proposed amount of $2.95 million. And to wrap up, the Kansas City Royals did not draft a Rule 5 player or claim a player off waivers, but did sign a group of minor league free agents that you can see here. Last up are the Minnesota Twins. The Twins have 11 players from their MLB roster not returning this year. The most impactful of those being infielders Gio Urshela and Luis Arraez, catcher Gary Sanchez, first baseman Miguel Sano, relief pitcher Michael Fulmer, and starting pitchers Dylan Bundy and Chris Archer. The Twins also signed 3 free agents. Those 3 free agents ended up being catcher Christian Vasquez, who signed a 3-year, $30 million contract, left fielder Joey Gallo, who signed a 1-year, $11 million contract, and infielder Donovan Solano, who signed a 1-year, $2 million contract with $250,000 in performance incentives. As for trades, Minnesota did 5 this offseason. On November 18th, the Twins did 2 trades. First of those 2 trades, they traded away starting pitcher Casey Legumina to the Cincinnati Reds in exchange for infielder Kyle Farmer. Second of those trades, they traded away infielder Gio Urshela to the LA Angels in return for starting pitcher Alejandro Hidalgo. Their next trade, on January 10th, they traded away starting pitcher Christian Jimenez to the Washington Nationals in return for pitcher AJ Alexy. Their next trade was on January 20th, where they traded away infielder Luis Arraez to the Marlins in exchange for starting pitcher Pablo Lopez, infielder Jose Salas, and outfielder Byron Chirijo. And then their last trade of the offseason on January 23rd, they traded away relief pitchers Steven Cruz and Evan Sisk to the Royals in exchange for outfielder Michael A. Taylor. Minnesota agreed to an extension with starting pitcher Chris Paddock for 3 years, $12.5 million, with $2.5 million of performance incentives in 2025. They also exercised starting pitcher Sonny Gray's club option of $12.7 million, which includes $4.7 million in performance incentives. They also re-signed shortstop Carlos Correa to a 6-year, $200 million contract that includes vesting future player option details and a full no-trade clause. The Twins had 7 players eligible for arbitration and were able to agree to deals with all 7 players while avoiding the need of an arbiter. They agreed to deals with infielder Kyle Farmer, outfielder Kyle Garlick, starting pitcher Tyler Mahle, and relief pitchers Jorge Lopez, Emilio Pagan, Caleb Thielbar, and Jorge Alcala. And to wrap up, the Minnesota Twins did not draft a Rule 5 player, claimed 2 players off waivers, and signed a group of minor league free agents that you can see here. If you made it to the end, thanks for watching, and I hope you find the information useful. If you're looking to find out more about the other 5 divisions and their off seasons as well, check the description down below for links to the other videos. Also, if you want to see more baseball content, hit that subscribe button, and I hope to see you around this season.